Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another Show Me How You Practice video. Now this one's going to be a little bit different just because I'm going to be leaning more into like witchcraft in the sense that a lot of the other videos I've talked about are more informational and they kind of talk about some of the different practices that I utilize. And one of the big things that I do as well is actual spells, being a little bit more proactive in like my day-to-day kind of work, if that makes sense. So today is actually April 1st. So one of the things that I did today was a cinnamon spell of just blowing a little bit of cinnamon. I like to add in nutmeg and also cayenne pepper into my little bit of cinnamon. And then I just have the intention as I'm walking through my door that I'm like blowing in abundance, basically. I know it's something that's very popular on like witch talk and things like that, but little things like that, little rituals, adding cinnamon to my coffee, lighting and keeping a little, which I already have lit right now. And I'll show you guys having a money bowl as well. Things like that help me stay connected and kind of call in different elements of my workings, if that makes sense. Today what I wanted to talk about was spell jars, because there's something that is like very simplistic, and I think it's a very effective way to do spell work, especially if you're someone that's maybe starting off. Maybe you don't have a lot of space. Maybe you need things to be a little bit more compact. So having a spell jar is nice. Now, I didn't even clean off some of these. I used to sit there and clean them off and try to do to where it would just look nice. And I'll just talk about what these two spell jars are and why I think that they're a fun addition to your practice. I'm just showing you like you can use any kind of jar. It doesn't need to look a certain way. You could do bigger ones, smaller ones. I've done honey jars or sweetening jars. I've done sour jars. I've done water jars. Hopefully you guys kind of know what I'm talking about with all of these different descriptions. I'll kind of briefly explain because I don't have anything on hand to show you an example of what that would look like. But a honey jar is essentially kind of like what it sounds like. It is a jar. I try not to use anything this big. I have much smaller jars that I'll use. Let's see. Let me see if I can grab a couple that I have some supplies in so you can kind of see what size I'm talking about. Again, I try not to make them super huge. Okay, so I would possibly do a honey jar in a jar this size. So this is something that I have a lot of these little jars that have different supplies in them where maybe I don't have a ton of something, like maybe I'll just keep some salt or something like that in a jar like this. As you can see, I have a rusty nail here. As someone that does do baneful magic as well, I do try to keep different tools that I may use depending on what I have going on and what I'm feeling. So if I find rusty nails outside or things like that, I just grab them, I keep them, and I throw them in here. But I would possibly do with this, I would fill up the jar. First, you want to cleanse it. You can use smoke, you can use sage, incense, whatever. Kind of clean your jar out. Make sure it's clean and dry, basically. And then for a honey jar or something like that, I would, write my intentions on a piece of paper, roll it up, put it in here. If I do have crystals I want to add in here, I like to buy like those little crystal chips of things. Let me see if I can show you guys. Okay, so this is like a bunch of little tiny crystal chips. So I'll use something like this to kind of add into the jar, something that feels like it's in alignment with whatever it is that I'm trying to sweeten or something that I'm trying to kind of call towards myself. So if I was to do like a self-love jar, a sweetening jar for myself, or to have like a sense that I want things to be sweeter for me in some way, I would use crystals that maybe I feel connected to, such as I really love like rose quartz. I would use maybe just clear quartz because you can kind of program it. Amethyst is great too. Adding little things like that, you can add some herbs, some oils as well. And then you basically fill up the jar with honey, or if that's something that may be too costly, then you can always use like sugar water. Just sweeten up some water, melt the sugar, basically throw that in there, fill up your jar, and then you can seal it off with a candle. I would prefer to do possibly like a pink or maybe even a red candle to kind of call that energy into my life. Now, the thing is like you can seal it with a wax, or you can just kind of burn a candle at the same time, because I feel like a lot of spells are calling on all of the different elements, right? Our words are the air, so that's going to be your intentions. We have the flame for fire. If you're using water, things of that nature, you can, add that in there. Something that's living can also be a representation of water, if that makes sense. So like the herbs, and then earth is basically the physical manifestation of everything that you're utilizing in your jar. Another thing with these is that I keep them until I feel like they're no longer effective. All spells, all things of that nature, anything kind of magical in nature, for the most part, you want to, redo it if needed. So I would just clear everything out. I don't usually put it back into nature because sometimes I'm mixing stuff in there that may not be animal or land safe, and I just want to be considerate that I'm not accidentally poisoning anything outside. Now, if you're wanting to do possibly like war water, things like that, you can use a bigger jar. And war water can just start with either, let's start with the sour jar. Sour jar is like what it sounds like. You can use something sour like vinegar, lemon juice, things that are sour. Now, these are seen more as like a curse, a hex kind of vibe. So they can be seen as baneful just because they can bring forth a souring, basically, of whatever your intended target may be. I have had more like doing like a lemon spell with just a lemon, just because you can discard it afterwards, which has just been very effective for me. But war water and sour jars are also something that a lot of people use spell jars for. So I just wanted to mention it. If that is something that you're looking for, I'm sure people out there may be sharing some of their recipes and what's been effective, but you're going to want to add things that are gross, things like, dirt, just things that you like, spoiled food, stuff like that, things that you really like, dead bugs, just stuff, that just isn't going to be the prettiest thing. Another thing that I like to do is these little abundance jars. So this is something that is very simple and easy. So I just have the intention that this is like for abundance. I just kind of shake it up, whatever. I have some coins in there, some cloves. It has some cinnamon as well. And then I have nutmeg in there, some rice, and that's it. It's very simple. And I just use this, and I usually leave one of these under our bed in my household to kind of continuously bring us work and call money to us. So that's a very simple and easy spell jar that you can do that can kind of call on abundance. And as with all things, if there's an herb or a spice that you don't feel connected to or that you like working with, you can always find a substitute or something that maybe is in more alignment for you. Personally, I like what I use, and so that's what I do. So finally, I'm going to talk about this last one that you're probably like, what is all in here? So this is what I will call a transmuting spell jar. So if you've ever felt like maybe people are bad mouthing you, or maybe you ended on bad terms with somebody, or something along those lines, where maybe you feel like maybe not everyone has like the nicest or kindest intentions for you, you can do one of these little, what I'm going to call a transmuting jar. So basically, my intention has been written in there that anytime someone is speaking about me, that calls financial abundance and other sorts of abundance to me. Now, I worded it a specific way. I'm not going to really like explain what all it is here. And I put a couple crystals in there. The first one, the main one, is going to be Tiger's Eye. So it's blocking those negative energies, helping to shift them to something else. And then I have azurite and malachite in here, which again are both crystals that can kind of transmute energy, are known to be very grounding and, you know, connected with the heart and throat chakra. So they're very much in that alignment. I have some orange peels in here. I have angelica root, which is known as a very protective herb. I have rue or ruda, which is a very protective, kind of removing bad energy herb as well. And I have a bunch of other little things in here that felt right for me. So I have like star anise to bring luck, again, to kind of transmute that energy, plant the seeds of something good. But this is something that's very effective, especially if I've been feeling like there is energy that just feels a little bit stagnant, or if I started this, I think, before I left my last place of employment, because I was just feeling like the energy was whack there. And when things kind of all fell apart, it was one of these things where I was like, let me just keep this on hand so that, you know, that energy is consistently being transmuted and shifted and changing. And so that way it's not something that I'm carrying with me as I'm moving into my next, you know, intended place or wherever I'm going. So I know that this isn't like a super comprehensive way of doing things, but I wanted to talk about spell jars because they're a great way to kind of not take up a lot of space, especially if you're someone that maybe struggles with having like an altar space, or if you're still someone that's like quote unquote in the broom closet. These are good because, I mean, you can carry something like this in your purse and just have it. I've done them like protection spells in like this size, and then I'll put them in like my spouse's cars or for like my children's vehicles and things like that, or for friends. I've done them with like little like muslin pouches and things like that as well. It doesn't always have to have wet ingredients in it, but I like the whole reusability of a spice jar. It's just something that works for me, because then once I feel like this is no longer effective, or I've moved on from kind of whatever it is that I'm focusing on, I can clear these items out and then clean the jar and start fresh and do something else. So let me know what you guys think of spell jars. Are they something that you've heard of? Is it something that you've been wanting to kind of do? I've seen people that make some that are like this size or maybe even smaller that I think are super cute and wear them as like jewelry and things of that nature. So again, it's not anything new that we're doing. There's so many ways to kind of make a compact little spell and not have to do something that's like super laborious or super extravagant. So I just wanted to share how I like to kind of keep some of my magic in smaller spaces and still be very effective in the things that I'm doing. So let me know what you guys think. If you'd like to have some more recipes for spell jars, let me know. Maybe that'll be something I'll share in some of these other videos. But I really appreciate you joining me. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.